vite jem larguar I dashuria dhe.
Por nuk të kam harruar, se shumë jam Belie.
Të falat të dërgoj këndi ku jam dhe, gjithnjë po të kujtoj. Se birën të në ke.
Good afternoon and thank you for your time this afternoon. My first question to you is, education is very important. One of the things that we've been talking about recently, even in London, is how do you create programs for Albanians in Britain, for example, because we find it now that it's harder to actually, for mothers to actually teach their children all the time, that type of thing. Are there programs outside the diaspora connecting with you as well that can actually teach young Albanians the language?
So, being a member of the diaspora myself, I've lived for many years in Canada. I have dual citizenship. I've lived for many years in Germany. I understand sort of how fundamentally difficult it is for families to try and keep alive the language and the culture of where they come from, but how fundamentally important it is for their well-being. Because as a migrant myself, I always felt that I performed best when I could also somehow integrate my origins into what I was doing in both Canada and in Germany. So in this sense, what we are trying to do as, now I'm in the Ministry of Education, Sports and Youth in Albania, but in principle, in general, what we're trying to do is trying to figure out programs that we can help through those programs, help families to try and push for sort of Albanian language education in countries where they live through teachers or people who are trained enough to serve as teachers in communities where education is organized. And this works really well in countries like, let's say, Sweden or Germany, where Albanian language as an extracurricular activity or as an activity that is within the curricula, but as something that is in addition to the normal curricula, has been integrated into the school system. This means that it's well organized, it's controlled, so the content is controlled, it's scheduled regularly so students attend, and it's financed properly, right? So this works really well. What doesn't work very well is when it has to be self-organized, because some communities are better at organizing and some not, and we have some issues with the Albanian community in Italy and with the Albanian community in Greece, for example. In this case, I think we have to be really creative and we have to move a few steps forward and try and build, so the program that we have now for the Albanian language and culture curricula, develop it into videos, develop it into online content that we can spread around for teachers to use in their classrooms, even if they organize informally. As a first step, we are registering everyone who teaches these classes, the Albanian language and culture classes in the different countries. And as a second step, we'll have a second register, those who organize these informally. But in parallel, we want to build these online courses through video tutorials and spread them around with digital means. Let's use sort of the age of IT to try and bring this aspect of the education development closer to the communities, to migrant communities who speak Albanian abroad.
What's your personal vision for the youth of Albania? How do you want to see them portrayed across the world? And what are you going to do to inspire the youth of Albania?
We've had very recently now in December major student protests, and it started in front of the Ministry of Education, so we saw them every day.
Right.
And it was interesting for me to start thinking about what do millennials want, because it's an Albanian issue, what some Albanian youth sort of are faced with, but it's also a global issue. The generation of millennials are living at a time when they have infinite resources when it comes to sort of information, but do not have a secure future like their parents had. So they live at this age of constant shifting ground where they have opportunity to do so much more, but do not have a clear idea of where they will be in 10, 20 or 30 years, as it was the case with the generation of their parents, especially in the industrialized sort of areas of the world. And what these students were telling us was pretty much this, when they were saying our tuition fees are too high for the quality of education we get, and we don't know whether we can compete for the job market here, nor do we know whether we can compete for the job market abroad, because as we know, small countries usually produce a lot of people who study or work in other countries. And I think this is my main concern right now, how to facilitate an improvement of quality of education in higher education in Albania, and make a differentiation between students who want to follow an academic track and what they get as education from the universities, but also students who don't want to follow an academic track. They actually want to join the job market, but they need skills, and their skills would be, IT, or they need other skills that are quickly applicable to the job market. But it's not a higher education issue only, because some of the basic skills that we need to build are built in primary education, in pre-university education. Literacy, numeracy, science, and digital skills. It's too late if we try to build them when youth is already 18, right? And with the intervention that Albania has made in a few years back, 4 years ago, we're seeing now the results. The new curricula has been implemented. We took books also from Oxford, Cambridge, and Pearson Press for sciences and mathematics, those that could be used and translated and used in the system here. So we're hoping that this has already made a shift in thinking about education, about what science content should be, how numeracy should be taught, and what is important in reading and literacy. Also, with the British Council, I've just signed an agreement yesterday.
Well done.
We are starting this fantastic project that builds digital skills with all students. I mean, the project is planned like this, that all students of grades 6 to 9 will at some point in the next 3 years receive this training and be able to work with these microbit computers that are so easy to use, that bridge this gap between where people are in terms of their digital skills and where they need to be. So we're very excited about this project, and we hope that by 2021, when this project comes to an end, we'll have the first generation of young coders or youth who's inspired to become coders and be able to serve both the job market here and abroad, but also be able to use those skills for furthering whatever professional ambition they have and improving their own lives.
You are the Minister of Sport as well. We have a big issue in Britain with overweight children, overweight teenagers. Part of it is said because the government has cut back on spending for sports facilities in schools. Do you have a similar problem in Albania? It doesn't appear to be. Everybody looks as fit as anything in Albania. How have you managed to keep your children and your people fit?
We have a small problem with students and pupils being overweight, but it's a problem that is coming, and it's in an increase, and it has to do with food, with the type of food that now families are consuming, and so we're trying to do two things. We're trying to increase the number of hours that students do sports, so the obligatory sport. So it used to be 2 hours a week. We're increasing this to 3 hours a week. We are investing a lot in gyms, so school gyms where physical exercise can be practiced, and we're also at the same time trying to fill some of this curricular space with information on healthy food and healthy living. And I've had this conversation because I go from at least once or twice a week, I'm outside of the office and visiting schools and talking to as many parents and teachers that I can. Especially being a new minister, I'm trying to really reach out to as many people as I can. And we have this conversation often about school lunches, right? There's this notion here that school lunch has to be a hot meal because that's the only way that you can have a healthy meal. And what I'm trying to explain is that it doesn't have to be hot. It just has to be, it has to contain certain things. It has to have a piece of fruit. The carbs have to be healthy with not so much oil necessarily. It can be leftovers from the night before. Instead of a juice, maybe just bring a bottle of water and a piece of fruit. And it doesn't have to be an expensive fruit. It can be a fruit that everyone has in their backyard. So as we're having these conversations, there's also a shift of mentality and a shift of the way we discuss what healthy food is. And I'm hoping that this will have a trickle-down effect, so families will be able to better prepare their kids in a cheap way, yeah, to have a healthier meal at school. So this is an effort we're making, and we still have a long way to go, but we can see results already from the very first conversations, because these are very simple ideas, but sometimes it's important to just sort of underline them for people to start implementing them. Yeah.
What is your vision for 2019 for your ministry, for your department yourself? What are the goals you're trying to set for yourself?
We have looked at sort of the main elements that a state needs to intervene for an education system to work. And I mean, this is basic. You look at the content. This is a curricula in the textbooks, and Albania has done a really good job in the previous years to change this and improve this and put these in schools. This is the year where we close the implementation of the new curricula. So there's only grade 5 that is still working with the old curricula. This will be implemented this year, and we close the cycle. So the next phase would be to then look at how this has worked and what needs to be tweaked to have better results. The bit that still needs to be addressed properly, and it's the other element that is very important, is the teachers. Albania has had very good teachers who were rigorous until a certain time, and then with the changes and the transition in the 2000s, in the 90s and the 2000s, there was a bit of, let's say, a more lax way of preparing teachers. And we see the results now, where we have teachers who are not necessarily as competent as the previous generation, who are currently in schools, and they will be in schools for another 10, 15 years. So we have a two-pronged approach. We're trying to build these programs to train these teachers as quickly as possible in both content and methodology, but at the same time we're working with universities and using this space that the student protest has created to do reforms in higher education. We're working with universities to develop programs to train teachers before they become teachers. So as they go through these teacher training programs, they should get a better curricula, more rigorous teaching, and they should do more practice in the field. So as if we manage to really build the foundation for this, we will see the results in the next few years. But if you build the foundation this year, then this will work itself out to produce better results in teacher training and to ultimately produce better teachers for Albania.
And finally, personally, you come into a maelstrom with all the student unrest. How hard is it personally for you to sort of take over a role that is suddenly highly political, highly sensitive at the same time? How hard is it as a politician to actually deal with something like that?
I've been a deputy minister covering pre-university education for a year and a month before the change in government took place, and I was appointed minister. So the fact that I was in the ministry for that period of time, I actually managed to really get my hands into some of the main issues and be better prepared to deal with this. This is a very difficult moment, but it's also a moment where the entire focus of the government and the parliament and the other institutions is on higher education. So to have all of this focus and to have increased financing, that was a decision that we made in December, and there will be another decision made when we revise the budget in the summer to increase further the budget for higher education. I find this to be an amazing moment to be a minister with this increased budget and this increased attention to really push forward a couple of reforms that are necessary in higher education. So I'm looking at it very optimistically, and I'm already sort of hearing how the discourse has changed, both with universities and with pre-university education as I'm doing my tour, sort of talking to everyone and trying to figure out what are some of the best ideas we need to implement. So I'm very hopeful. It's a lot of work, but I'm very hopeful.
Can I thank you? You look fantastic as well, may I say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today on ALB UK TV, and perhaps we can come back and work with you on one of your tours sometime and film a little bit more.
I would love to. That would be great, actually. And we'll do a tour at one of the universities, or we'll go and see a school. And I can also do a little bit of sort of tour guiding. I can show you a little bit of the Albanian education system through showing you a school or a university.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Jemi me disa profesorë të drejtorisë arsimore në Tiranë dhe janë në pjesë në samitin e dytë të diasporës. Përshëndetje asaj që merr një pjesë në samit.
Drejtoria arsimore e Tiranës merr pjesë për herë të parë me nismën e saj që dhuron abetare për shkollat e diasporës. Ne këtë vit kemi bler abetare, nxënësit e Tiranës, të gjitha shkollave kanë bler abetare dhe i dhurojnë për fëmijët e diasporës në mënyrë që çdo fëmijë që ka gjakun shqiptar të mësojë të flasë shqip. Ndërkohë, ne kemi edhe një nismë tjetër shumë të rëndësishme që është shkolla verore e diasporës, bëhet për herë të parë. Kjo është një nismë që ka të bëjë me ardhjen e fëmijëve diasporës në Tiranë, ku ata do të marrin një program të mirë detajuar për të mësuar gjuhën shqipe, për të njohur letërsinë shqipe, trashëgiminë kulturore tonën, po ashtu edhe etnografinë shqiptare. Si vjet, ne do të kemi një numër të kufizuar fëmijësh, do të janë vetëm 40 fëmijë diasporës që do të trajtohen dhe do të mirëpriten në Tiranë për të njohur Shqipërinë.